My name is Jay and I welcome you to Mass Communication Decoded. In the initial video of polity, we will be talking about Article 21. But before knowing Article 21, we should have a basic understanding of Constitution of India and how it evolved over a period of time. So without wasting much time, let's get started with the video. So what is exactly the Constitution? Constitution is something which we can call as the basic set of rules that are accepted by everyone who are the citizen of the land. These are the rules, these are the regulations that are abiding on everyone, be it the government or the people as well. So that is what the Constitution is in a nutshell. When we talk about the evolution of Constitution, like when we talk about the basic constitution making, it started with December 9, 1946. That was the first time when the Constituent Assembly held its meeting. Then on December 11, 1946, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the president of the Constituent Assembly. Then over a period of time, this constitution evolved. Then there were some changes that were made in the constitution. After a long deliberation, long changes, the constitution finally got made and it got written, or like it got formally signed on January 24, 1950. And after that, this constitution became legally enforceable on everyone from January 26, 1950. So when we talk about the duration of the constitution, it took around 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. So that's a long time. And this timing duration would be definitely be discussed there somewhere in the video, like later on as well. So let's get started about the salient features of Indian Constitution. Since Indian Constitution took around 2 years, 11 months and 18 days, so it can be said as one of the lengthiest and one of the biggest constitution that was written, and it supports the idea of democracy. Since democracy as a layman is something which is the form of government which is elected by the people, for the people and to the people. So that means in democracy there is the involvement of people as well. They elect their representative. Then comes the idea of parliamentary form of government. When we talk about parliamentary system, since we are aware of it, that India has two houses, that is Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and these houses are directly or indirectly elected by the people of the country or citizens of the land. And then comes the idea of fundamental rights. This will be the discussion agenda of today. And then we'll be talking about fundamental duties as well, that would be followed by everyone, or that is the responsibility of every citizen to be following. Then comes the idea of DPSP, that these are directive principle of state policies. Here are the things which are somewhere kind of a right, but that could be taken away in some cases. Then comes the idea of the constitution, which is somewhere flexible as well as rigid. Why is the constitution said to be flexible as well as rigid? Because whenever the amendments are required, whenever the things are being challenged that are of the ordinary citizens of the country, we can approach court. And that too by using Article 32 or 226. That is why B.R. Ambedkar, one of the drafter there in the Indian Constitution, had said Article 32 to be the heart and soul of Indian Constitution. And India never accepts the idea of dual or the dual idea of citizenship, because when we talk about the citizenship of India, if someone wants to apply for Indian citizenship, there are some clauses, there are some guidelines that has to be followed, but the person has to give up the citizenship of the other country if wants to be available for Indian citizenship. Then the Indian Constitution has been handpicked from various sources. There were like lot of constitutions from which India has derived its idea. That is why it is said to be derived from multiple sources. And India always supports the idea of universal adult franchise. When we talk about universal adult franchise, it means whenever a citizen of the country having voter ID card attains an 18 years of age, that is considered to be the idea of universal adult franchise. Then are the provisions of emergency and many more things to be discussed, but those things will leave for the remaining videos that will be coming up in this polity series. So let's move ahead and talk about the different parts of the constitution. Since Indian Constitution, you can see it from the table, is divided into 22 parts, and every part has a different significance. Like part 1 talks about union and its territory, part 2 talks about the citizenship idea, how like a person can attain the Indian citizenship, Then comes the third part, that will be today's agenda, and that too only Article 21 we'll be discussing in today's video. So that is fundamental rights, and there are a lot more things there in the parts of the constitution which are given for your reference. You can pause the video or have a look at these parts of the Indian constitution later on as well. Then what exactly are fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are somewhere we can call it as basic rights enshrined in the constitution to every citizen of the country. Like if you are a valid voter ID card holder or a valid citizen of the country, then you are one of the person would be getting all these rights. And these rights are mentioned, as we have already discussed in the previous slide, that these come under part 3 of the constitution. That too they are falling under certain articles, that is starting from article 12 to article 35. Since fundamental rights start from article 12 to article 35, we have made a big list of those rights for your reference, but here in the video we'll be just talking about that article 21, which is about protection of life and personal liberty of every citizen of the country. But before that, we need to have a look at other things as well. Like for our understanding, there is the article 14, that is equality before law. It has been used multiple times. And then comes the idea of protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, association, cooperative, reside, movement, profession, and everything comes under article 19. And here comes the article 21, that is going to be the agenda. But before we move to the next slide, I would like to bring your attention to article 32. That is something which was always referred to as the heart and soul of Indian constitution by B.R. Ambedkar. That is for right to constitutional remedies. So this right will always has always been mentioned many a times whenever a need arises, whenever any of the right are infringed of the citizens of India. You can approach the court and you can ask them question. They are answerable for if you use these article 32. So let's get started with the video. What is exactly article 21? Since the textbook definition or the definition given in many of the sources simply says that no person shall be deprived of his or personal liberty except according to a procedure established by law. That means if you are taking away somebody's liberty, that should be mentioned there in the code of law, or that should be mentioned there in the law as well. Without the mentioning of this thing there in the law, you cannot take away anybody's article 21, or I mean to say personal liberty. So that is something is known as life or personal liberty, that is enshrined there in the article 21. So let's get started with some of the landmark cases. Not all cases could be covered in this video, so we'll be just talking about 3 cases here. So here is a list for your reference if you want to go through the list of the cases. Here is the first case of A.K. Gopal versus State of Madras, that happened in 1950s. Then is a famous case of Kharak Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh, that happened in 1963. This case would be discussed here in the video. And comes the case of Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, that happened in 1978. Then was a special case of Minerva Mills versus Union of India 1980. I have just made some of the cases list. Not all are mentioned, but you can have a look of these cases somewhere through internet as well. But I'm just going to talk about only 3 important cases that would be more important for your understanding about Article 21. Since Justice KS Puttaswamy versus Union of India, that case happened in 2017, it is one of the landmark cases because it talks about right to privacy. Here is the judgment about the Aadhaar card. This judgment has been referred multiple times, so we can talk about this case as well. So let's get started with the very first case of Kharak Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh. So since before we move to the Kharak Singh case's judgment, like what exactly were the conclusion, what were exactly were the judgment given by the senior most court of the country, we'll have to have a look at what exactly was the case, like the background of it. So Kharak Singh was one of the petitioner. You can see I have already made a sketch of it, or you can still out of it. So Kharak Singh was one of the petitioner of it, and he had been he was charged of robbery during that time, and due to lack of evidence he was set free. And after he was set free, there was the power which the Uttar Pradesh police was using during the odd hours. They used to visit his home, they used to look at his premises, even during his sleep hours as well. That is why I'm mentioning during the sleep hours or during the odd hours. That was something Kharak Singh didn't like, and he approached the court. Since he approached the court, he mentioned about Article 19(1). That was mentioned there in the judgment that 19(1)(d) and Article 21 were being infringed. And six judges gave a judgment, and they talked about how surveillance of a citizen cannot be taken granted. And here the famous case of Kharak Singh got concluded, and he got judgment in his favor by using Article 19(1)(d) and Article 21. So let's move to the next case, which is somewhere related to Article 21 only. That is very famous case which I was mentioning about, Aadhaar card judgment. Since Aadhaar card judgment has become one of the important cases, because in this one of the parties, I mean the person who filed the case was a retired judge, and he himself was one of the litigant, actually one of the person questioning the Union of India. And that is why in this case, that was 9 judges bench that the case was referred to, and court simply said that the right to privacy was a fundamental right, and for any of the government scheme, biometric thing or biometric data could not be the only thing we can rely on, since it was a contravention to privacy law. That means it was like questioning the privacy law, because that was not the citizen. They were simply giving their details because it was somewhere becoming more mandatory for them to avail the government services. So it was actually challenged, and this Justice KS Puttaswamy judgment came out to be one of the landmark judgments related to Article 21. And comes the third case, which was somewhere related to Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India. Here Maneka Gandhi was the litigant, and it is somewhere related to Article 21 because Maneka Gandhi's passport was seized by the authority, and actually the passport authority didn't allow her to travel abroad or travel somewhere else as well. And that is why Maneka Gandhi approached the court, and in the favor of Maneka Gandhi, that is of 7 judge bench, gave a judgment where like 7 of the judges which are already mentioned there, MH Beg, that it was that time he was a CGI, YV Chandrachud was also there, VR Krishna Iyer, PN Bhagwati, NL Untiwala, S Murtaza Faisal Ali, and PS Kilasam. So these were the judges there in the panel, and they come up with the judgment that no, Maneka Gandhi should be allowed to travel by using her valid voter ID, valid passport, apologies for the valid passport. And this is what we have in today's video. And if you are looking for more information related videos, you can keep watching our channel and keep subscribing and keep sharing to your friends as well. Thank you and have a nice day.